WWE's PG era is ending soon. Plus, a top Raw star has reacted to the end of the PG era. And we have a major update on AEW's UK debut. It is all in the wrestling news right now. Ready for blood and guts and violence and swears and bikinis and car wrecks and whatever that was?
That was my breeds. Those were my breeds.
Those are your smashing breeds.
They are indeed.
The PG era ending soon. So presumably that is all on the cards. Last night, I'll get into it. Last night, Andrew Zarian tweeted, starting July the 18th, WWE Raw will have a TV 14 rating moving forward onto USA Network. The PG era is over. Oh. You're damn right I'm over. Zarian has since updated the statement, saying there was a memo within USA Network that went out this morning regarding Raw changing to TV 14 on July 18th. Apparently, that was sent out prematurely and the day was not finalized. This is a wild situation. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. WWE Raw won't be going to TV 14 on July 18th, but still in consideration for a later date. So we had a date and now we don't have a date, but we certainly have wheels in motion. Are you long enough in the tooth wrestling fan to sort of remember pre-PG WWE?
Attitude Era, yeah, of course. Attitude Era, that was around about the time that I started watching. And that was one of my favorite times as well, because I guess when you're growing up as a child, it feels like, oh, it's forbidden. Are we allowed to watch this kind of stuff? And that was kind of the exciting thing. Obviously, times have changed now and things have changed, especially, certain content that was in Raw back then in the Attitude Era might not be sort of what we would expect to watch now on TV, because the times have definitely changed. But, well, I guess we'll see what's popping off.
In terms of what we will see, Sean Ross Sapp goes into a little bit more detail on Fightful Select, doesn't he?
Yes, he says, for those expecting a significant content adjustment, they might end up being disappointed. While NXT has racier content regularly, it's still rated TV PG, and the content that airs is still up to the creator itself. Unlike MPAA for movies or ESRB for video games, cable television shows aren't required to meet a certain standard in order to retain TV PG status or move to DV14 status. For instance, WWE could very well have a self-rated WWE Raw at TV PG during the Attitude Era. However, input from the network and sponsors about the content is always taken into effect.
As of now, WWE Raw still listed for July 18th as TV PG. And as Andrew Zarian has said, they were a little bit quick off the mark to say from Monday. It could still be from Monday.
It could be.
If they make that change. And it'll be interesting to see how this changes the content. As Sean Ross Sapp has said, they sort of managed expectations a bit by saying it might not change that much, but it'll certainly give them more scope to do things a little bit more of a racier nature. Is this the return of a bit more blood and guts, blood and butts to wrestling? Are we going to see more sort of car crash television that you might not necessarily get away with PG? Or is it a bit of a PR thing to encourage people to go, hey, because as Sean goes into there, quite rightly so, WWE could have very well self-rated themselves during the Attitude Era, and they could have classed themselves as PG when they clearly were not. So because one of the big things between WWE and AEW at the moment is that AEW is presented as a more sort of adult wrestling product, by putting the word out there that, hey, we're going to go TV 14, maybe that's a way of potentially going, get over here.
But I think still, obviously, they've got to factor in sponsors and things like that, because, WWE, very sort of synonymous with having lots of partners and lots of sponsors and whatnot. And I think if you start to alienate people a little bit too much, that might come as a bit of a shock and people might start pulling out of certain things and whatnot. So I think obviously that's going to be taken into consideration, whether it's perhaps maybe some choice language that just gets introduced. Because I think NXT more recently at least as well, seems to have been a bit more on the I guess the racier side of language and whatnot. So maybe it's something like that. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of withholding my expectations of what this means until we actually get to see it play out on TV.
Cody Rhodes reacted to this news with a tweet. I was checking the context of the tweet here, and it was indeed, yes, wink emoji.
Winky winky.
Wink emoji. This is Cody, who, you know, I'm sure will be a bit partial to pushing that TV14 envelope.
This means, right, at WrestleMania, imagine John Cena, End of Judgment Day 2005, and his match against JBL, pouring. This Cody's like, that's me. WrestleMania, guys, that's gonna be me.
Before this news video got started, I put Cody Rhodes in the TV14 era of WWE into the DALL-E Arts AI maker, and that's what came up. Well, that's pretty much Cody's first match back right there.
It's gonna be nothing like what you think it's gonna be like.
Just like that, without a doubt. More times are changing. Let's go over to AEW, where JR, we've noticed, isn't there for that first hour of Dynamite.
Yeah.
He's not late.
Imagine if he was. Like,
sorry, I'm late, guys. I was stuck on Slobberknocker Boulevard. He used to call Dynamite and not Rampage. Now he calls 1 hour Dynamite and the whole of Rampage. And on Grilling JR, he said, I was coming out before the show, doing all of Dynamite, and the reception was very humbling. But Tony thought the show in the middle of the show, speaking of Dynamite, needed a boost. So JR became the booster. So I come out in the middle of the show, still going to be called the main event. And then I'll also add my voice to Rampage as well. I'm going in for long relief, and we're going to get some results for you. That's the deal here. He says he's like Mariano Rivera. That's a sports time reference. We'll give it everything we've got. That's the deal here, just keeping me fresh and special. And that's not a bad shout.
That's not a bad shout. I mean, obviously, I think sometimes it feels as though perhaps JR's getting a little bit... I think his enthusiasm, you can tell that his enthusiasm kind of winds down as we get through the longer shows and whatnot. And now that we've got Taz in like the first half of Dynamite, and Taz and Excalibur together are just, they are so good. They're like really, really good, and they gel well together. They always have good fun. Tony Schiavone in there as well. Like, it's always a good time. JR, I think now when he comes in like halfway through, it feels a bit more like he's got a bit more life in him.
Yeah, he's pumped. He's ready to go.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a great use of JR.
Definitely.
And it's with no disrespect to JR.
No.
Because I've really gone back and forth with him as commentator on Dynamite, and he's like the voice of my wrestling childhood.
As he is for a lot of people.
So I don't want this to be misconstrued as me digging on one of the best of all time. He's so ingrained in the fabric of professional wrestling that when you do a lampoon or an impression of a wrestling commentator, you're doing an impression of JR.
Yeah.
Like, that's how ingrained he is in the business. So, but I also recognize that, wow, he can really be, sometimes he can be, he can lift, and sometimes he can be an anchor.
Yes.
Not in a good way either. He can really drag the thing down. And I like the fact that he comes out, as you say, fresh in the second hour. And is pumped for that main event match, and then adding to Rampage, which I think Rampage has suffered from a weird time with commentators.
Yeah,
you had like 4 at one point.
Yeah, you get Ricky Starks on there sometimes as well. Like, it does feel like a hodgepodge sometimes. So maybe to have a little bit, maybe to have a little bit more consistency. Yeah, JR out there, and it's a shorter show as well, isn't it? Which is always good too. I think that lends itself well to JR these days too.
JR has also dropped some exciting news regarding AEW coming to our side of the pond, you know, where we say maths instead of math and put the U back in colour.
It's okay.
It's just annoying me. The Americans telling me I couldn't speak English.
Do you want me to read the old quote from Jim Ross?
I would love you to read the good old quote from Jim Ross.
On Grilling JR, he said, I know that we're going to go places like Pac is defending that title now in the UK. I get it all the time. When are you guys coming to England? Well, when we come to England, you can bet your ass it's going to be big. Tony's got great business contacts there. But the key thing is AEW is definitely coming to the UK, and it will be in the next calendar year. I know that for a fact. I don't know the dates, but we're all excited about that because we get great television ratings in the UK. So why not play off that? And that's very exciting indeed.
Excited for all those AEW fans packing out Fulham. We're going to Fulham, kids. Oh, great! Yeah, it's
dream.
Almost. It is the dream, isn't it?
The dream.
It's almost defo going to be Craven Cottage.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think there's even been talks about that in the past as well, and I think that seems as though where it's going definitely.
Yeah, if you got a stadium you can use,
Why not?
You might as well.
Why not?
Use
Exactly.
It. Would love to see AEW this side of the water. We've been very blessed to have like a lot more attention over here. We've got WWE doing Clash at the Castle in what, a month? Is it a month and a bit?
It's not long away now, is it? It's coming fast.
Jeez, September's coming around, isn't it?
It certainly is.
I haven't saved any money for holiday yet. Oh God.
Are you all right?
I've got holiday the week after.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
I haven't put any money away for that. That's a problem. But definitely Clash of the Castle will be fun. But then AEW rocking up a year after.
Very, very. That's exciting for the UK as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it feels like we don't get enough big wrestling shows, especially of like the big sort of WWE, obviously AEW not even been across the pond yet. So it feels nice and warm in my heart when we get something like this. I mean, I think it's going to be as JR says, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a huge show. I wonder if they sort of follow. I don't know do you think WWE are going to keep doing UK pay-per-views? Do we think we'll see how Clash at the Castle goes and then we begin to
I don't
possibly
think they'll resist pound sterling.
Yeah?
I don't think I think they'll make a lot of money for Clash at the Castle.
And
I think they'll move around the country.
I feel like AEW then could very well combat that with a UK pay-per-view too, perhaps.
Both are competing for the Motor Point Arena with WES. Good lads. Yes. We'll have more wrestling news throughout the day at cultaholic.com. Case.
Love you, bye.